As I went walking on the beach, I was walking so driftfully. On the horizon there were creatures swimming so peacefully, arching like serpents on the surface of the waves. There were needles and thread, they were stitching fabric on the sea. It was pretty dolphins and salty oceans swimming so peacefully, swimming so peacefully. Nightfall came up, so I sat down. The moon shone so brightly. Waves rolled onward into the night, crashing so endlessly. Further in the ocean, it was so serene, rocking so calmly. It sparkled like eyes do when they have seen a sparkling fairy tale. It was lonesome moonlight and oceans at midnight, crashing so endlessly, crashing so endlessly. Up, the sun was shining ever so brightly. Feeling the pull, I continued walking so driftfully. Baby powder sand beneath my feet, forever shifting. Shades of a glow surrounded everything in a yellow haze. It was a tiny drop of water in a massive ocean, walking so driftfully, crashing so endlessly. All right, y'all. Welcome to. Thanks for all the clapping. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Welcome to episode 47 of the FastHeartMart podcast. I'm your host, FastHeartMart. If you want to know why I'm called FastHeartMart, just look it up. For the love of dolphins, just look it up. There's a lot behind the name. So yeah, welcome back, everybody. Looks like Jay Van's here. My mom's here. So that's all that I need. Just those two ladies is enough for me. So it's always good to see my mom on here, and Jay Van out of South Carolina. That first song was called Pretty Dolphins. It was actually requested by Jay Van last week, and I wrote it like 20 years ago. I wrote that song like 20 years ago. That recording is probably almost as old as the song. I recorded it with a band called Hobos in Limbo, which is a bluegrass band I had together. Kevin Jones usually gets on here too and chimes in the chat section of this podcast. He was the banjo player for the band, and then there was a guy named Uncle James on the mandolin. You heard him playing, and then Roblin Crawford was the bass player on that track. And it's just an old song that I wrote about these pretty dolphins. I was actually on a beach in Virginia at the time, and there was a lot of dolphins. I've never seen so many dolphins as I've seen in Virginia, on the shores of Virginia. You see these dolphins, and it looks like there was like so many of them. There was probably 16 of them, and they were making this pattern like it was like thread. It was like stitching through the ocean. It was really pretty. They were probably this big, maybe. I don't know, maybe bigger or whatever. Don't know what kind of dolphins they were. As you can see, I've got plenty to say again here today. This is episode 47, The War of the Sexes, take 2. And I gotta get the boo track queued up for that. This is episode 47, take 2. This is episode 47, War of the Sexes, take 2. That's the boo track. I just made a boo track because I know. Here, let me look at my notes here before I go any further. I'm trying something different, but I'm going to be playing some videos of my songs during this podcast instead of playing live. I'll be playing some songs live, but I've been really there's some songs that are so old, like Pretty Dolphins just now, that it's hard for me to like get it into my repertoire. So I will eventually get that song back into my repertoire. That recording was lost for about 15 years. I found it just like 6 months ago or a year ago. And I found it in some of my old recordings, and it was just one of those moments where like, did I write this? This is great. And then Kevin Jones, I sent it to Kevin Jones, and he's like, this is amazing. So it was like, for both of us, probably everybody in the band is like, it was one of those lost gems that turned up like 20 years later, maybe 15, whatever it was, 15, 20 years. It's ridiculous, isn't it? 15, you're talking about 15 or 20 years. Anyways, like 15 years ago, that song was recorded, and it just resurfaced. And I haven't been playing it at all, but I've been passing it around to some close friends, and they've liked it. So I'm going to try to get it figured out how to get that out there, because that recording is really good. The bass player and I are definitely estranged at this point. So that's the only catch, I think. I think everybody else would be cool about having it out there. Anyway, moving on to this episode 47 of my podcast here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in so far. I've got a disclaimer again, of course, this week, since the nature of the topic is it's called The War of the Sexes Take 2. I'm not sure if you want your children to hear this. I'm not going to say any pornographic or cuss words. I wanted to make it clear. I had a friend of mine, he wrote in about last episode, and he wanted me to make it clear that, he was kind of confused with what I was saying about when you're talking to children about sex, where babies are made, the storks and stuff like that. I was just saying last week, I think it's kind of weird that we'll lie to our children about Santa Claus and the existence of Santa Claus, but we won't tell them where the babies are made. And I don't really understand that. I've never been a parent. My friend who talked to me about it is a parent, and he said he had no problem talking to his kids about where babies are made. The problem that a lot of parents have these days is they don't want, we've got this drag queen story hour thing going on, which I'm like, whatever. I'm pretty tolerant. I'm not sure I would want my kids listening to it, but I'm not sure I wouldn't either. I'm not sure how I'd feel about it, to be honest. I don't really have anything against drag queens as long as they're not trying to like completely brainwash my kids into thinking exactly like them. That's cool, whatever. But I understand some parents don't want that. They don't want their kids being read to by drag queens. And I respect that too. I think that's what I'm always saying is everybody has their reasons for why they do and do not want to do things. There's so many choices these days and so many different ways of going. We just have to always be tolerant. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying that just because you don't talk to your children about where babies are made that you should be judged. I get it. And you certainly shouldn't be forced to make your kids go to drag queen story hour if you don't really want them to. I think it should be a choice. It's like so many things. It should be a choice. Just want to make that clear. Okay, so moving on. So why am I having another episode on this topic of the war of the sexes? Well, first of all, I'm going to try to keep this lighthearted because it's supposed to be kind of lighthearted. This whole podcast is lighthearted. It's not serious. I'm not a really serious person. I can be serious and very focused at times. But overall, I have a hard time taking anything seriously, really. I really like to keep my sense of humor intact at all times. So I hope everybody has a sense of humor about this topic, the War of the Sexes Take 2. I realized I kind of bit off more than I could chew on this topic. If you remember from last episode, I was talking about how I came about this topic, and it was because I had two younger men write in about one, Spencer, was asking why I think the world basically hasn't evolved beyond where we are yet, and we're still kind of at each other's throat. And then another man wrote in, and he's a younger man. He wanted to remain anonymous, and I respect that. But he just wanted to get my opinion on modern dating and what's going on with the relationship between men and women, and why is everybody so isolated and depressed and all that stuff. So I kind of chimed in on the issue of the war of the sexes. And if we're being honest, there's a war of many kinds going on in the culture, with the culture. And there is a war of the sexes going on. I'm not saying it's violent or physically kinetic or anything like that. But there's people are very confused on both sides, I would say, and not just in this area, but in so many areas. So I thought I'd weigh in on it and give my opinion. And then I did that last episode. I realized I was way in over my head, and then I got more feedback from the last episode. So I wanted to address some of the issues that came in from the last episode and talk about those a little bit. And then now I'm done with this topic. I'm moving on. Next week, I have a different topic. I want to talk about the fact that I've been in San Diego for 10 years now and reflecting back on that. But for this week, we're back to the War of the Sexes. I had a friend, her name's Carolina, and she's a great woman. She lives in Montana, and she used to... well, I won't say much more about her. Maybe she wants to remain anonymous. But she's been married for 53 years to her husband. And she said she really appreciated the last episode. She said it was very entertaining and interesting, even though she might have disagreed with some of the things I said. She didn't say what she disagreed with, but I respect that. But she just wrote, intelligence, sense of humor, compassion, kindness, faithfulness. Those are all important qualities in a man as well, or a woman probably. I think she was specifically talking about, of course, men, we need to be intelligent. We have to have a sense of humor, compassion, kindness, faithfulness. I think that's all very important stuff, and I'm sorry if I glanced over that. I have another friend who wrote in, and I'm going to let her remain anonymous because she's a local friend here, and I'm not sure if she wants me to say her name, but she's cool. She's really cool. She owns a local business here. And she works at a lot of the farmers markets that I play at. And she was asking me, how do men protect a woman from herself? Because I had said that in the last episode. I will address that issue later on here. The last episode was not very popular at all. It was the least watched episode I've done so far of these podcasts. And I'm okay with that. I thought it was going to be super popular. I thought it was an interesting subject. But I'll get into why I think people were not down with watching it. And it was definitely, I made less money on the last podcast episode than I've made on any of these episodes. And by the way, if you're watching, please, everybody, please like this episode at least. Even if you don't like it, just go ahead and like it. I'm just kidding. Like it if you can, please. It helps a lot. It helps my channel grow. I'm getting more subscribers all the time and trying to get monetized on YouTube here so I can make some more money. As you know, being a self-employed musician, you're always looking for new revenue streams, and I'm trying to get myself into a nice financial situation. So go ahead and like the episode, please, right now. Like it right now. Bill Hicks used to have Bill Hicks was a comedian back in the late 80s and early 90s. He's brilliant, but he would rant on about political subjects, and he would get way away from the jokes, and I feel the same way. I feel like I'm getting away from the music and away from the jokes a lot of times with this podcast, but I have things I need to say. I feel very called to do this, and I am focused on my music. I'm going to get more focused on my music as the next podcast roll out. These episodes were more intensive as far as thinking about what I needed to say, and I have a lot to say on these subjects, but I am feeling called to speak out on these podcasts for whatever reason. I don't know if it's God, my heart, or both, but I just feel very motivated to do this. I feel like this podcast is limitless as far as the reach goes. A lot of the gigs I play are very limited as far as who's there at the time and all that stuff. I feel like this is the way for me to go. I may make it shorter in the future. I may not do an hour. I might do like 30 minutes. An hour might be too long for people. We'll see. I'm working. I used to do 10 minutes. I think it was 10 minutes for a while there. I was doing 10 minutes, and then I went to 30, and now I went to an hour. So we'll see where I land eventually. But just wanted to put in all that. I know about myself. One thing I know about myself, I'm always a little bit too far ahead of the curve. I'm like so far ahead that by the time a trend starts, I'm already on to another trend. I know it sounds arrogant to say that, but it's true. I was van life way before anybody was doing van life. I was kind of doing my folk rock way before anybody was doing it. That's the thing in my life, as I feel like I'm a little too far ahead. I became outspoken about the MAGA jabs during the pandemic a little too soon. Everybody else was like, no way, I'm not speaking out about that. But I was like one of the first ones out of the gate, and I was pretty strong about it. and it was a little too far ahead because now everybody's kind of coming out about it and it's kind of popular now. And I'm like already moved on to the War of the Sexes, so I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. I wanted to give this quote, and I'll give this quote again later, but there's a man, his name was Krishnamurti, and his quote is, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." So just remember that, people. If you feel like you're an outsider, you don't fit in, maybe you're not wrong. You know, this society we're living in right now is very off and it's pretty sick. And I don't think many people would disagree with that. Maybe it's perfect for what it is. I do believe we're in the teenage years of human evolution, which is very chaotic and tumultuous. But it's also great. There's a lot of great things happening. Just like the teenage years, it might be our best time of our lives. I mean, it wasn't for me, but for some people, it might be their best times of life. It's a very awkward stage, though. Everybody would agree on that. So I'm going to go into this next song. This one's called Oprah Winfrey. Boris just chimed in. My friend Boris, who's a documentarian and a neurologist and a family man. He's got a great family. He gives me hope that families can exist and a husband and wife can get along and have kids that love to be around them. His kids are full grown. They're in college now. And I was eating dinner with him about a year ago, and everybody loves each other. It was just a really nice thing to see, a functional family. He and his wife are from Russia, so maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't know. But hey, Boris, thanks for chiming in. Spence is back. Hey, Spence, thanks for coming back. Yeah, if you're a black sheep in this society, maybe that's a good thing. Who knows? I'm going to play a song now called Oprah Winfrey. It's a song that I wrote, again, probably a long time, 10 years ago. But it is about this subject of like there's broken hearts everywhere. That's what's happened. It's no coincidence that heart disease is the number one killer. I think just not in this country, but I think worldwide. Heart disease is the number one killer. And of course, there's a physical aspect to heart conditions and heart diseases. But there's also the fact that emotionally, our hearts are broken. We've been through bad relationships. We're in bad jobs. We're in bad situations. And there's a lot of broken-hearted people in the world. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. So that's what this next song is about. And it's called Oprah Winfrey. I wrote it when Oprah had retired or something, went off the air. So here it goes. Check this out. Oh, I guess I'm going to stay on the screen for this one, right? Yeah. Let's see how this goes. Let's see if I can get it to work. Hang on. What's going on with the Oprah Winfrey song? Why isn't it working? It was working earlier. Oh, here we go. Let's see if I go here. There it is. There it goes. I might talk a little bit on this one just because I can, I think. Can you believe homing birds? All right, that song's called Oprah Winfrey. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're looking at this photo, this is the album cover called Awkward Quan that came out in 2011. And if you look at this photo starting at the left, I don't know if you could see my cursor on the screen, but on the left here is my nephew, all the way to the left. That's my nephew playing guitar. And then that's me playing the banjo behind the pumpkin. And then that's Liz Davies behind the campfire. She does backing vocals. And then that's with the peg leg. That's my friend Daniel playing the bass. It was a stick bass, and he got in a terrible skateboarding accident and had to have it was terrible, and his leg was totally messed up, and he was on crutches for a long time. And we're super grateful that he's skateboarding again. He's back to normal. He's been back to normal. It was pretty scary though for a while. And the dude in front of the bear is Davey. I forget Davey's last name. Somebody tell me Davey's last name. Davey was a cool guy. He did backing vocals and mandolin, and he was great. He's a great singer, and so is my nephew there. My nephew did backing vocals, but I really miss Liz Davies. I haven't talked to her in a long time, and she's a great singer. And listening to that old recording brings up a lot of old memories for me. So it's, as a musician, this is at least 10 years ago. Was what, 12 years ago? It just brings up those old memories of people I played with, and I haven't been playing a whole lot with people lately. My friend Joe and I play a lot together, and then I play with Q sometimes, and I play with Saki and Shadowlight. I haven't been, but it's very rare. I don't have a band right now, and I haven't since I moved to Southern California. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe it's the times we're living in. But I hope you enjoyed that track. It looks like J-Van does not. She says she misses the live performances, and I told her to deal with it for this episode. You're gonna have to deal with it, J-Van. But I'll keep that in mind for the future. Maybe just one pre-recorded track per video or per podcast in the future. Okay, so back to the topic, the War of the Sexes, take two. Let's face it. There is a war of the sexes going on. I think most people would admit that. Maybe there's always been one going on. Maybe that's the point of life, is that there's always going to be tension and release between the sexes. It's the duality of life, maybe. Maybe it's just gotten worse lately. I don't know. It's a provocative title. That's kind of why I named it that. But I do believe that, like I said last week, if a man and a woman can't get along, when they come together to have a baby and a child, how do we expect masses of people to get along, nations and races and classes? So if we can work on a relationship between men and women, whatever that is, whatever that might be, that we all decide is fair, I think the world would be a happier and better place. So, and I do think we're being manipulated. I think we're being manipulated. The sexes are being manipulated to fight with each other, just like so many other things. We're being manipulated by the puppet masters, or whoever you want to call these people. I don't like to call them the elite, because they're not elite when it comes to having good morals and values. And they're puppet masters. They happen to have been in control for a long time. I don't know if it's Satan or if it's people or what, but these puppet masters, they're the ones putting out all the propaganda that keeps us fighting and all this stuff. And Disney movies, even though I like some of the Disney movies and I think they're great, I think they do feed us a fairy tale when we're young that creates an adulthood that we feel so disillusioned if we don't live up to the fairy tale created by Disney. So, and then I think most of us believe that the pandemic was probably a manipulation of some sort of a virus that was created or somehow propagandized to make us all scared and fight with each other. So I think the war of the sexes is just another part of the manipulation of the I gotta enlarge the screen. I think the war of the sexes is just another aspect of this manipulation. Right. Okay, there, I'm back. Thanks, Peter. And Peter also said, being ahead of the crowd is a lonely gig, my friend. Yes, it is, Peter. Peter has been a fan and a friend and a supporter for so long now, for 20 years, him and his family, and I really appreciate that. I've played some shows where nobody was there, and they loved it, and I've played pretty good shows, and whatever. But anyway, yes, it is a lonely gig. To be a pioneer is kind of lonely, but I like it that way, I guess. I guess that's why I'm a pioneer. I put my backpack on, put my collar up, and face the pain of being on my own, out there on my own. So I think what it comes down to is we have extremes on both sides of this issue of the war of the sexes. We have the people who believe that the feminist or the feminine is superior, and then we have the people who believe the men or the masculine is superior. And of course, most of us level-headed people don't believe either of that. We believe that there's a moderation, there's a middle ground. I think most of us realize too that we're supposed to complement each other. The sexes are supposed to complement each other. That's why we're here together. We're supposed to learn how to dance together and help each other and enhance each other's lives. And by and large, I don't see that happening a whole lot these days. It does happen, and it's pretty rare, but it does happen, and it's out there, and it's possible. I have a note here saying incels versus sluts. You could, it's okay to shame the incels, but it's not okay to shame the sluts, as we've come to. And I don't really like talking about these subjects. It was something a friend of mine came up with. He was talking to me about incels last week, which an incel is basically an involuntary celibate, which is that's one end of the extreme, I'd say, is on the male side probably. And on the other end of the extreme, on the feminine or the female side, we have the sluts, or can we even say that on YouTube? I'm sorry if that's a bad word. I don't even know what it means anymore because, anyway, I probably should have stayed away from that topic. Anyway, I think the war of the sexes basically comes down to this. Men are afraid to want traditional wives, and women are afraid to want traditional husbands. Even if a woman wants to be traditional these days, I think she's sort of shamed out of it. And I could be wrong, but if a girl says at a young age, I just want to be a homemaker and a mom, people will be like, you can't do that. You need a career and all this stuff. And I don't think that's right. I think it's great that feminism, that women can do whatever they want now. But I think women should also have the option of being traditional stay-at-home moms and homemakers. And I think men should have the option of wanting that. But it's kind of rare. Again, that's another thing that's kind of rare. And I think that's where the war of the sexes is kind of coming from, is where people feel like they can't really say what they want without being called, whatever. And I'll get into that in a second. And it's basically come down to we're basically trying to be what we're desiring. So a lot of times women are trying to make a lot of money because that's what they desire, a man who makes a lot of money. They find that attractive. But a man usually doesn't really care about how much money a woman makes. And a lot of times men, and I've probably been kind of guilty of this, a lot of times men, they want to put on a look, and look a certain way because they think that's what attracts a woman. But really, women really like a man who takes care of himself and is empowered himself with finances and is in a strong place. I'm not saying all women want that, but that's kind of what it comes down to, is provider, a man who can provide. And a man kind of just wants a good-looking woman who will support him, and that's where it comes from. I think it all comes down to we're afraid to admit that. And this is getting we're 30 minutes in. All right, we're 30 minutes in. I'm not even halfway there. So I would like to say this. This is not an easy subject to talk about, the war of the sexes. Automatically, when a man starts talking about this, you get called a misogynist or an incel or whatever bad word that people want to call a man who talks about the differences between men and women. A lot of times, just like a lot of things in life nowadays, you get labeled some negative, pejorative term. And I'm neither one of those things. I don't think I've ever been an incel. I mean, I don't think I'm not a chauvinist. I believe women should be able to do what they want. I really do. I'm actually coming from a place where I thought men were kind of inferior until, I don't know, till recently in my life. I don't know, last 10 years probably, maybe 20 years. I always just thought like men were like drone ants. Like I said, I always just thought we were just meant to be like, the drone ant basically is part of the hive, Its only function is to fly away from the hive, find a queen, and mate with her. And he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't help with anything in the hive. Basically just flies away, finds a queen, and inseminates her, and then that's it. And I thought for a long time that's kind of what men's role was in our human society. But now as I've gotten older, I realize that's not true at all. And I'm really kind of changing my stance on that. And I'm sort of standing up for myself more as a man and trying to find my place more as a man and what my role is as a masculine, as the masculine end of the spectrum. I'm not anti anything. I'm not anti-feminist. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not anti-mask. I'm the only anti-anything that I'm anti-anti. The only, what's the word? I'm not I'm not intolerant. The only intolerance I have is intolerance. I'm only intolerant of intolerance. I'm very tolerant of anything except for intolerance, basically, is what I'm saying. And so I'm not talking about this to put anybody down. I'm talking about this to help out the masculine side of things and also help the feminine side of things understand the masculine side of things, I think, is what I'm trying to do here. It's almost like talking about Donald Trump. You either like him or you don't like him. You can't just be like indifferent about Donald Trump, right? I've said some things in support of Donald Trump on this podcast. I've said some things against Donald Trump on this podcast. And inevitably, I end up pissing off somebody in the audience who loves Donald Trump or hates Donald Trump. And that's the way, when you're talking about the differences between the sexes, it's the same thing. You're going to piss somebody off. Just like the MAGA jabs from the pandemic. You're going to piss somebody off talking about those or talking about masks. So you just got to kind of do it. And that's all I'm going to say about being anti-anything. I'm not anti-anything. I'm really not. So why should we be in relationships? The happiest people I know in my life are actually in happy relationships. I can usually tell when somebody's like a dude's in a happy relationship. You can see by his attitude. He's very positive. And that's not always true. Some single guys I know, I'm like that. I'm pretty like positive most of the time. I go through funks and stuff, but for most of the time, even when I'm single, I'm like stoked to be alive and stuff. But the reason we want to be in relationships is, I mentioned this on the last episode. We want to be in the duality. We want the duality, the dance of life. That's what we're here doing. We're dancing a duality: dark, light, black, white, male, female, on, off, whatever. It's all duality. And I've had a theory that we're actually maybe supposed to resist procreating while we're here. Maybe that's the whole point, because we keep coming back to this place, which is Earth, or whatever we're calling this thing we're on, this life we're in. Maybe it's a simulation. I don't know. Whatever we're in, we keep coming back here. People keep coming here. And it is a lot of suffering. It's a lot of joy, but it's a lot of suffering. But maybe we're supposed to resist procreating. Maybe that's the whole thing, is we're supposed to resist all these temptations to procreate. And if everybody stopped reproducing, we wouldn't have to come back here anymore. We could go somewhere else. I don't know. Maybe that's a theory. And my friend Michael was pointing out that's actually an old theory. I thought I came up with it. But the agnostics, which is an old religious group, that was what they believed in as well. I'm not saying that's true, but I've had that thought. We live a lot longer now, so we have to kind of figure out what we're going to do with ourselves. When we were living shorter, whether we got married, happily married, or whatever, it didn't matter because we weren't going to live that long. But now we're living like 90 years. I hope to live a long life. I hope to live like 120 because I got a lot I want to do, and I'm like taking good care of myself as much as I can. I'm into health and stuff. I want to live a long time, and I'd like to have a partner to share life with. It's almost like that saying, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does anybody hear it? Does it make a sound? And it's like that when you live a life by yourself. It's like you have all this happiness, but with nobody to share it with and to see it and to see your internal workings. It's kind of weird, man. I know some people are cool with that, and I respect that. But that's not what I want. I mean, this is not what I have. I mean, this is what I have right now, but it's not necessarily what I want. I've heard an old couple saying that we live in a disposable time. It was an old couple, probably 80 years, and they've been married for like 60 years. And they said, we come from a time when things broke, we would fix them. And that includes their relationship. Whenever their relationship would break, they said they would fix it because they came from a time when you didn't throw things away. And we live in a very disposable time, and it's super sad, but whenever we have problems in our relationships, we're so quick to throw them away because there's so many people, and I think there's so many more options out there. But it's heartbreaking, like when people come together. Anyway, we live in a disposable time, and to try to keep a relationship and fix it in a disposable era is kind of counter. It's very counterculture. Again, that doesn't mean it's bad just because it's counterculture. Maybe it means it's good. I think, like I said, in a lot of ways, men still want a traditional wife that would be, somebody that he's attracted to and who supports him, emotionally, maybe takes care of the house and the kids and is happy. She loves him. I'm not saying she's like forced to be that way. She actually loves him and is inspired by him. And she just wants a man to protect her and provide for her and her family and the kids and stuff. And I think at the heart of most human beings, I think we still all want that, whether we realize it or not. I think we all still want it. But it's just so happens we have something called the Federal Reserve that makes inflation occur, and money doesn't mean as much anymore. And so now both people have to go to work. Nobody can stay home with the kids. We're sending the kids off to these minimum wage workers to raise them, and then sending them to public school to get indoctrinated by God knows what. And so now we're just in this big, huge mess, and I think we can sort it out. And another reason to have a relationship, I think I kind of mentioned this, but it's something that should enhance your life. It shouldn't really complicate your life. A relationship should enhance your life. And I think if it's done well, if you do the dance properly, build a foundation, it can happen. So, okay, so that's that. What are the alternatives to relationships? You could be a monk. I'm going to try to speed through this. You could be a monk. I've tried that. Not a super fan. It's good for times when you're hurt and if you got together with somebody else, you would just hurt them. So there's times when monk mode is really, I think, really helpful. I liken it to when you step on a piece of gum, and if you step on a piece of gum and you got this gum on your shoe, you don't want to just wipe it off on somebody else. You want to go clean off the shoe, get the gum out, and then start seeing somebody else after the gum. And the gum it could take a while to get the gum out of your shoe. If you don't get the gum out of your shoe, you're going to get it on somebody else and make a mess of their lives too. So that's a good time to be a monk or a monkess or a nun or whatever you call it. We got AI bots now replacing relationships. I'm not a fan of that, of course. Probably, I don't know if anybody would admit to that, but to being a fan of that. But I mean, I wouldn't judge. Again, very tolerant person. But AI bots, come on, man. This is like getting crazy. Of course, there's the P word, porn. I'm not allowed to say that very many times, I don't think, on YouTube. So some people say corn. And of course, the problem with that is it's all in your head. It's all cerebral. It's not real. It leads down to a road of despair. You basically, anyway, I don't know. I just think that that's not healthy either. I'm not saying, again, very tolerant person, do whatever you got to do. There's a whole movement called MGTOW, men going their own way. And what happens is a lot of men realize that the odds are stacked against men, especially when it comes to litigations and family court and stuff like that. They might lose everything. The woman might take everything from them. And you have a lot of men who are just like choosing not to participate in society anymore. They've gone their own way. This is very common in Japan, apparently, and it's becoming more common here in the United States. And I get it. I definitely don't judge the MGTOW movement. I think they make a lot of really good points, and you should be very careful about who you're mating up with and stuff like that. But again, ultimately, I don't want to completely believe in MGTOW. I don't want to go that way. I can understand. There's the passport bros who basically say that you can't find traditional women here in the West anymore, or if you can, they're called the purple squirrel or the purple unicorn. And they're very rare, so you have to go overseas to Eastern countries or Eastern cultures where they still believe in traditional values and stuff like that. And again, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think they make a lot of sense, and there's a lot. I'll put links in the show notes to some of these guys who believe in the passport bro mentality. But I choose to believe that you can stand your ground and fight where you are. And there's guys, I'll put them in the links too, that say you can. You just have to learn how to be a very masculine man. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about alternatives for relationships. Let me check in with the chat really quick. Oh man, I've gone way over on this thing. There's so much to talk about. Preach it, brother. Okay, so J Van's back with me, so that's good. I think she was asking why the mullet. The mullet is nice because I used to grow my hair long, like all over the place, but it's really impractical, and in a lot of ways, I would look like a woman sometimes, like, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing. I think women are beautiful, but it's not the look I'm going for. I don't want to look like a hair guy, like a guy from a hairband or whatever from the 80s. So now I'm doing kind of both, and even sometimes I get sick of that, so I just put it up in the back or whatever. So that's why the mullet, J-Van. Spence Dugan, I know a unicorn. That's good. I'm glad you know of a unicorn, Spence. Then protect the unicorn. Hold on to the unicorn. Keep the unicorn safe. All right, so here's the thing. This is going to be putting my personal life on blast a little bit, I think, with this topic, but it's the nice guy effect, basically. And I've gone in and out of being a nice guy. I think in a lot of ways I'm not a nice. I'm a pretty assertive guy in a lot of situations, but certain women are my kryptonite, and I lose all my judgment. I just let all my morals and values kind of go out the window, and then I fail. And I've done it more times than I'd like to admit, but I've learned from every one of those situations. And I would just want to say to guys out there, I would just like to say to guys out there who are having problems with women and stuff like that, it's important not to just like give yourself away to a woman. That's not what she wants. She doesn't want a man who's just going to give her everything right away. It doesn't work. I've tried it. Doesn't work. You've got to hold on to yourself. You have to love yourself and be passionate about yourself and your life more than anything. You can't love her more than you love you. That's what it really comes down to. And being a nice guy sometimes in the face of women, I've done that, and it doesn't end well. And I think that's why I'm 46 years old. I'm still single. Of course, I was born with a heart condition that kind of made my 20s a mess. I was a mess in my 20s. I did some kind of I was just on I don't know, I thought I was going to die. And so I was just I just did whatever, I just kind of shacked up with whoever or committed to whoever. And then I got into my 30s and realized I was going to live. And so I've been working on myself really for the last 16 years. I've been working myself out of that. But I'm also brainwashed by our culture, Disney, the movies, everything else too. And I have these really high standards that are probably too picky. I've missed opportunities with some girls that I probably should have not let go, and I did. So I'm just as guilty as everybody else. Or women, men want to accuse women of being too picky and having too high of standards. I've done it too. I've definitely done all of that, and so that's why I'm 46 years old, still single. I went out on a blind date one time, I remember, and it was the only one blind date I've ever went on. And this woman was really nice, and she was pretty, and she was a lot like me, and she worked at the border. She was called a border angel or something like that, and she talked about the issues going on at the Mexican border and all the problems and stuff like that, and she volunteered a lot, and she was into the Peace Corps and just wanted to make humanity better. And I just remember sitting across from the table from this woman and thinking, why am I not at all attracted to her? She would be so good for me. She would be so good for me. But the reason we fall, I think, for somebody is not because they're good for us necessarily. We fall for somebody because we want to grow spiritually. Somehow, maybe I'm completely messed up when it comes to that, but the women that I fall for, I know they could make me grow spiritually, and they make me want to be the best I can be. If somebody doesn't inspire me to be the best I can be, basically somebody doesn't scare me and make me a little bit nervous, I'm not into it. And maybe I need to get a lobotomy for that and get my brain rewired, but that's what it comes down to. So one time I was at a bar, and I was talking to a man and his wife, and the wife was surprised that I was single. She was like, She was just like, I just don't understand why you're single. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was out in Joshua Tree. And she goes, well, I guess you're probably just too nice. And I was just thinking, I thought to myself, how can you be too nice? How is that a thing? But it is. It really is a thing. When you're too nice in the face of a woman that you really are attracted to, it doesn't really go super well. You have to look at it kind of like you're driving a car. If the woman wants to ride in your car, but before she gets in the car, she's disrespecting you, telling you like how she's like, I don't know, not ready to settle down, and she wants to date around and all this stuff. Don't invite her in your car, dude. Really. That's that's not what you're looking for. Just because she's hot and stuff, just don't invite her in your car, because she's going to disrespect you in your car. And then now you've let her in your car and you're driving her around, and she feels like this guy he's a doormat. So that's the thing, is that if a girl says something to you and is giving you signals that like red flags or whatever, put the barriers down and just be like, hey, just tell her, hey, we could be friendly and all that stuff, but I'm not getting involved. And watch, dude. I've done that. I have done that in the past. And watch, the everything changes. Like, she'll start to like wonder about you, and she'll start to try to figure out how to get closer to you, instead of you pushing her away because you're just like a doormat and letting her in your car. A woman wants to be driven around, I think, in a car. But if we're constantly looking at her while we're driving, she's not going to trust us that we're looking at the road, and we're going to crash the car. So that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm ranting a lot right here, but I feel like this all needs to be said for somebody out there. I'm hoping somebody gets something out of there, because I've wasted a lot of my years, not wasted, but I've spent a lot of years basically going through this dance of like, when you meet a woman and you're attracted to her, keep your guard up, seriously, and don't like push her away or anything, but show her that you're a man. And because here's the thing, if a man can't stand up for himself, a woman knows that he won't stand up for her, or he won't stand up for the family. That's what it comes down to. So guys, stand up for yourself at all times. You got to stand up for yourself, because women want a man who will stand up for himself. Okay, all right. That's the thing. Attachment styles. That's something you should explore. What kind of attachment styles? That's something I'm exploring now. Everybody has their own attachment styles. I talked about this a little bit last week, but when you get intimate with somebody, some people get attached instantly and some people don't. And you got to know where you're at. If you're intimate with somebody and you know you're going to get attached too soon, don't do it. It's going to make a mess. Be friends first. I really believe in that. Build a foundation. Talked about that last episode. Here's the thing too. I used to give away my CDs for free to people. This was a long time ago, 20 years ago, because I thought, oh, I'll just give it away for free. But then I realized, when you give something away for free, a lot of times people don't appreciate it. But when you make them pay for it, they're going to listen to it at least once or twice or 5 times. If you just give it to them, they're probably just going to use it as a coaster, or maybe never listen to it. So be careful of giving things away. Okay, I don't want to make it really... I might go over a little bit, because I'm going to play some music at this. Yeah, Kevin just said women want nice and good, but still masculine. Exactly. And I think at first you have to be very masculine. You can't just give all your cards out at first. You have to play the game. You do. And I've had to learn that the hard way. But until the woman starts to really like you, you can't just give all your cards away. You have to be like, hey, I'm protecting myself. I don't know you. And women like that. They will respect you. I've seen it happen. I'm not blaming, I just want to make it clear, I'm not blaming women for the problems in the world. I really am not. I'm blaming the feminization of men, and I'm not blaming men who are feminized, myself included. I've lived in this culture my whole life, 46 years. I've been brainwashed by movies and cartoons, Homer Simpson, Everybody Loves Raymond, whatever. These emasculation of men is what the problem, I am convinced, is what the problem is. And we're afraid to be men. We're afraid to protect ourselves, stand up for ourselves these days. And I think that's where it really comes down to. So I'm not blaming women. Just be very clear about that. There's also, I think men have become more effeminate because of the chemicals. There's a lot of chemicals in the water and the foods. I think the drugs that we take or the alcohol we drink, all that stuff makes us more, I don't want to say feminine, but it makes us less tough. We're not as tough, and we're not going to stand up for ourselves as much. I enjoy a good drink just as much as anybody, and I've certainly done a few drugs in my lifetime. But in the end, you got to be careful. You got to find a balance in that, because it could basically make you weak. You don't want to be weak. You want to be strong. You want to be a strong man. And so I'm going to play another song after that, and then it's called Doing My Best. This is, I feel like, one of my strongest works ever. And this video is really good, too, that goes along with it. So I hope you enjoy it. Here it goes. It's called Doing My Best, like I said. And then I'll have a joke for you after this, and I'll come to the conclusion. Okay? All right. Well, okay. Sorry about that. I had technical problems. That's the first time I've actually played a video. So I guess it didn't work. Just check out my song, Doing Your Best. It's a great song, if I do say so myself. It is my finest work. I think I made it about 7 years ago. And it's a good video, too. It's one of my best videos and one of my greatest songs. It's not a song I can play a lot of the venues because it's... Man, talk about duality, dude. I mean... I have to play all these upbeat songs when I'm playing live because every situation that you play live has to be kind of upbeat. And I mean, I love Elliott Smith. I love these really downtrodden artists, but where are you going to play this stuff? Nobody, unless you're playing in a heroin den. So check out my song, Doing Your Best. I'll try to splice it in for the, I don't know. I'll try to splice it in for the podcast, the audio podcast. So, it was working okay, but just needed an audio boost. I think it was coming through this mic. That's why. Anyway, thanks for letting me know it wasn't working. So, anyway. Yeah, so looks the chat's pretty interesting. People are chiming in. Gentlemen. But, yeah, I agree. Women want a gentleman, but we have to define what that is. A gentleman isn't just somebody who basically lets a woman get in his car and ride around when doesn't deserve it, okay? That's basically a pushover. A gentleman is somebody who's like kind to a woman, even though he disagrees with her or whatever, but he's not going to let her like into his private business and stuff like that when she doesn't deserve it. That's not being a gentleman. That's being a pushover or a nice guy. And so I just want to make that clear. I think it's really helpful for men these days to hear stuff like that. What do women want from a man? They basically want somebody who's 6 feet tall, makes six figures and has a six pack. That's kind of a joke. Let me just put the. What do women want from a man? They want a man who's 6 feet tall, makes six figures, and has a six pack. That might be like a generalization. I don't think any woman's going to necessarily turn that down. But I think in my experience, I'm 5'11". I don't have a whole lot of money, and I'm working on a six pack. But I've been with I've had the experience of dating plenty of women who are not necessarily attracted to those things. I think ultimately they're attracted to a man who is passionate about his life and himself, and who's open to having her along for the ride. And I don't mean to make that sound trivial or sexist or whatever. And I'm going to say this again. I think men have to make themselves strong enough that a woman wants to follow his lead. I think women still want to be women, but they still have to find a man who inspires her, keeps her attention, and keeps her safe so she's free to be feminine. I think that's ultimately kind of what's happening here with the war of the sexes. And that's why men and women are baffled. The key to a good relationship is shared values, common interests, and hobbies. I agree, Kevin. I think that's good. When you're dating somebody and getting to know them, building your foundation, you want to hear like what their common goals are. I met a saint one time up in Northern California. She said that. She said it's okay to marry, but make sure your goals are aligned. And again, I know what she means, and I have let that out the window so many times, and man, it's bad. So I think basically men need a rebrand. We've gotten, our brand has gotten completely messed up. We have a bad brand. I think there's been a lot of fathers who have basically abandoned their children or been bad fathers. There's such thing as toxic masculinity. Of course, I believe in toxic masculinity, but I believe in good masculinity. And then I believe in being emasculated and effeminate. Those are like the spectrum, and we want to be somewhere in the middle where we're masculine. We're not toxically masculine, but we're not effeminate, and we're not emasculated. We're like strong men who know what that means, okay? I think we should be making TV shows and good movies like about this thing. There should be more of that, and it shouldn't be so fantastical. It should be a man showing a man what it's like going out on a date with a woman and who looks like a 10, but on the inside she's saying all this trash, and he just walks away from it, doesn't get involved, just walks away from it. I think we need to show that more. Anyway, and again, I'm not gonna explain myself anymore. That was something my friend Mitch said. He says I give too many excuses for what I'm saying, and you're right. I shouldn't give excuses. I should just be able to say what I want to say, and people should give me the benefit of the doubt if they know me and they care about me, whatever. So. I'd like to thank my dad for being a good dad. He stuck around and showed me. I mean, he's buff. He's like in his 70s, dude. He's still buff and looking good. He's in good shape and stuff. So I've had that at least. And a lot of people don't have that. And I think that's what's happening. We have fatherless homes. We have homes where women grow up and they don't respect their fathers. They don't like their fathers. And men too, same thing. Men grow up with these fathers they don't respect, and now we have a society of people running around that are lost. We're completely lost, and I would encourage men to stand your ground and believe in yourself, that we have a place here to be strong and to show whoever's around that we can be strong. And that's what I'm doing here. Jello Biafra was quoted as saying, "Don't hate the media, become the media." And that's what I'm doing here with this podcast. I'm becoming the media. I'm trying to put out good vibes and putting out things that I believe in, that it will change the world. And thanks a lot for indulging me on this episode. I know I've gone way off the rails. I just felt like I needed to put this topic to rest because I see it so often these days. I just see it so often. So I wanted to put it to bed. and go off topic a little, or just go out way out in the weeds. I'm gonna put some notes in the. I'll put some links in the notes about further research for being a nice guy and how not to be a nice guy. There's a book called The Queen's Code by Allison Armstrong, who my friend Gabby just told me about, and I've listened to her podcast, and she has some really good things about how a woman could subconsciously emasculate a man, and she's doing some really great work. So I'll put that in the notes. I'll put that in the notes about attachment styles, dating coaches. I only know of masculine dating coaches. I don't watch feminine dating coaches because that's not really something I need to watch, I don't think, but maybe I should. And I am done with this subject. Next week I'm moving on to the fact I've been here for 10 years in San Diego, and I'm going to give some reflection on being here for 10 years in San Diego. That's going to be the topic for next week. And thanks a lot for listening. I'm gonna play a song, I think, at the end of this. It's gonna be Shady Grove. Thanks a lot for listening. It's gonna thank any support that I got here today. Did I get any support? It was embarrassing. Last week I made the least amount of money I've ever made on these podcasts. I don't know. People are just so afraid of this topic, and maybe they just don't like what I have to say about it, and that's fine. But I know somebody out there is benefiting. DSI, thanks a lot for the generous donation. Thank you very much. That's awesome. And that's all I have for the support. And of course, thanks for the emotional support. Everybody in the chat, Jay Vin, Kevin Jones, Peter, my mom, my dad. I think that's everybody in the chat today. And here is the joke for the day. Here is the joke. I know my friend, she really enjoys the joke, so hopefully some other people do too. I didn't write this joke today, I'm going to admit it. My friend Allie sent this joke to me. She sends me some good ones. I like these kind of jokes. I've been preaching a lot about dried grapes lately. I'm just raising awareness. All right. I don't know. I thought that was funny anyway. Please like this show. If you're watching, please like it, share it, subscribe. Getting more subscribers, which is good. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I need to start to monetize this channel. So that when I monetize the channel, there's like a $sign button that people can hit and donate anytime. Because I do that with some of the creators that I like. It's so much easier to donate stuff. You just hit the $sign button and you can donate. So. One of these days, I'm going to have the time to make some funny jokes, people. I've been like, this whole thing has been so much work. You have no idea. I dedicate my whole Wednesday basically to this podcast. It's like technical problems. It's like writing notes, which I'm not going to do this anymore. This is crazy. This is insane. This topic was way too big for me. I'm way over my head. But just so you know, I will have some good jokes coming up when my brain is clear and free. Whoever wrote the raisin joke, thank you. That's cool. And conclusion, at the age of 46, I still have hope. I haven't given up on love. I would encourage men, don't be afraid to be men, but don't bash women. And women, don't be afraid to be women and don't bash men. Let's find the common ground and let's give each other the benefit of the doubt and try to come to an understanding here. I feel like falling in love is like falling asleep. If you're conscious of it, have you ever been the last person at a slumber party who's awake? That's what it feels like being 46 sometimes and still single. You're just like, am I the only one still awake here at this party, at this slumber party? But if you're too conscious and you're thinking about it too much, it doesn't happen. When you fall asleep, it's just because you're just relaxed and you're in the moment, and then you fall asleep. So you got to remember that, people. And also, I think the older you get, the harder it is to fall in love. There's an analogy that I like to tell people. There's a ski jump. You know the ski jump when they jump really far? They jump 200-300 feet. There's that ski jump, and they don't teach kids over the age of 14, because apparently anybody over the age of 14 will get in midair who's never done it before, they'll get in midair and they'll wig out because they realize all the consequences, the possible consequences that could occur when they hit the ground, and they could crash and burn and just completely kill themselves. So I think falling in love is like that too, where when you're younger, you're not aware of all the consequences and the possible bad outcomes that could happen, so it's easier. But I don't think it's impossible. You can still fall in love, and maybe falling in love is bad. Maybe you shouldn't fall in love. Maybe you should be consciously stepping into love. I don't know. But I still believe it's possible for myself, and I believe it's possible for anybody out there who wants that in their life. So don't stop believing. And to find somebody you love, you have to be somebody you love. Just remember that. That will attract. I believe that's what attracts what you're looking for. And also remember, helicopters are not supposed to fly. Theoretically, on paper, they're not supposed to fly. And the same thing is probably true of human relationships. No matter what era we live in, it's probably always seemed impossible. No matter what era we live in, life has probably always seemed impossible. I imagine even the cavemen were saying to each other, "Oh my God, did you see what happened to Tom yesterday? He got eaten by a lion." What is the world coming to? People never used to get eaten by lions. It's gotten so crazy. Life has always been crazy. I used to give myself that excuse that we're living in a time when love is not possible anymore. That I don't know, a lot of things are not possible, but I'm really changing that about myself. I'm trying to change my brain and believe in myself. This dude Oliver Anthony has really inspired me. This folk singer, he just blew up literally overnight. He never played a live show in his life, and now he's one of the most famous singers out there. If it can happen for him, it can happen for anybody. Keep believing, people. Be passionate. Believe in yourself. Life has always been impossible. I'm going to play Richmond, North of Richmond. Why don't I play that to end the show? Or would you rather hear Shady Grove? In the chat, let me know. I'm going to play Richmond, North of Richmond. A lightning storm would make the peasants think they made the gods angry. Right. It's all interpretation, right? I guess. Thanks you guys in the chats for tuning in. It's I don't know where I'd be without you. I'd feel really lonely. So thanks for doing that. And hopefully, has the sound been okay today? Hopefully it has. Man. All right, I'm going to play a song called Richmond, North of Richmond to end this show. That'll be the first cover song of the show. Can I attempt to getting my helicopter's license? There's no way this thing can fly. Can I attest to that? Oh, I can attest to that, getting my helicopter's license. Oh, you have your helicopter's license, Peter? There's no way this thing can fly. That's awesome, Peter. I didn't know you're a helicopter pilot. That seems really hard, man. That's awesome. This guy, I'm going to have an episode about this guy again later, this Oliver Anthony. He's fascinating me. I'm very fascinated by him. I know last couple episodes ago I talked a lot about him, but I've learned more about him lately. One of the things about his songs is they're so simple, but his phrasing is crazy. It's really hard. And I just find that to be very inspiring. I'm always looking for ways to be inspired by other musicians, and I'm inspired by his phrasing. It's 4 chords. Sorry for the delay here. Got to get the sound right. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours and BS pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drag my troubles away. It's a damn shame, but the world's gotten to people like me, people like you. 'Cause I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is, oh it is, living in the new world with an old soul. 'Cause these rich men, north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. And I know what you think, know what you do, you know that you think, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't spit, this tax is no end. 'Cause Richmond, north Richmond, all alone. I wish politicians would look out for minors, not just the minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street with nothing to eat, and the OB saw milk and welfare. If you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge round. We got young men putting themselves in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep kicking them down. It's a damn shame, but the world's gotten to people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is, oh it is, living in this new world with an old soul. 'Cause these rich men, north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do. Down to the firm, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't spit, it's taxing no end. 'Cause of Richmond, north Richmond, oh no. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours and BS pay. It's a damn shame. Where's the applause? All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Shoot. Hey, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I could have written that song. I probably did. I probably have written that song in the past and just never thought anybody would like it. So I've written so many songs that I didn't think would go anywhere. Again, you got to believe in yourself, man. I got to believe in myself. That's the thing. Got to believe in myself, and I'm working on it. And hope you guys are working on yourselves too. As long as we're alive, I think we have to work on ourselves, improve ourselves, and stuff like that. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. There's getting to be more and more listeners every week, especially on Spotify, which is exciting. I can't believe it. Let me know what, always write me. If you think there's ways I can improve the show, be blunt. And if you think it needs to be shorter, if it needs to be longer, God forbid, whatever you think, just let me know. And everybody, please be good to yourselves. And I will see you in the next show. Kevin Jones just wrote and said, me and Uncle were talking about Daddy Longlegs. I forgot how to play that, and we did a recording of it. I wrote this song called Daddy Longleg Teeth a long time ago, and it was a great song, and I have no idea how to play it anymore. I know we did a recording. I can't find it. It's so sad. The songs I've written and forgotten, it was probably like I could have been Oliver Anthony a long time ago. Anyway, I'm not going to say anymore. It's depressing. So thanks a lot for listening, everybody. Have a great one. I'll see you hopefully next week. I'll be here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Rain or shine.